Hey fellas and fellettes, I'm that car guy, Tim, and on this episode, my 2019 Frontier Pro 4X is about to clock 225,000 kilometers. Now, I've never been shy about using this truck as a kootenai truck, so let's take a good look at how it's held up over nearly 250,000 kilometers of highway driving and backcountry fun. Welcome to the episode. I'm that car guy, Tim, and behind me is my 2019 Nissan Frontier Pro 4X. Now, this channel is different because most automotive shows rent or borrow from the manufacturer for their long-term testing, so they could sometimes be rather biased to stay in good favor with the automaker. Me, I'm different. I bought this truck brand new from Sun Valley Nissan in Cranbrook, BC. I paid it off. It's free and clear. It is totally mine. Every kilometer, aside from maybe one or two for shipping, is me. I watched this truck roll off the transport trailer at the dealership in the fall of 2019, and I bought it straight away after weighing the pros and cons of a king cab with a manual, which I wanted a manual, or a crew cab with the automatic. The crew cab obviously won out just for the ability to haul buddies around. Now, this truck has been my primary vehicle from day one. It's done it all, from highway drives to stop-and-go traffic on the Deerfoot in Calgary, long road trips across BC, and all the way to central Saskatchewan, through high wind advisories, blizzards, Chinooks, wildfires, the extremes of Canadian weather, minus 40 to plus 40. I've shoved this thing down some of the most challenging trails in the East Kootenays. Powerline trails, FSR adventures, hill climbs, steep descents, overlanding, hauling. If you can do it with a pickup, I've done it with this Frontier. Every single kilometer on that odometer has a story to tell, and it's done it all faithfully with just one major hiccup. But we'll get to that in a bit, so make sure you stay tuned. Now, as far as modifications go, there's really not too much done to the truck yet. I swapped out the factory wheels and tires, as you can tell, and I installed the swing case. But that's it so far, but the time for really building my dream truck is coming extremely soon, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that bell to follow the build. Now, knowing myself, I'm a frugal guy, so it's probably going to be on the budget side of things. Now, maintenance habits. This one is super important. For the first time, I have a driveway that's mine, so I've started doing the little maintenance bits myself, like fluid changes, tire rotations, all that sort of stuff. For the first 4 or 5 years of ownership, I was always renting an apartment, which didn't allow me to perform maintenance myself in their parking lot. I've also found a shop I really like, Full Circle Automotive, out in Edgewater, for the bigger items. As far as oil changes go, I like to do them every 10,000 kilometers or so. Sometimes I'll do one sooner, and a complete fluid check after I've driven it hard or done some serious off-roading, which, let's face it, it's just a good maintenance habit to get into anyways. This 4-liter VQ40 has been known to roll into the 400,000 kilometer territory, and I definitely want to make this thing last. Now, looking at the exterior of Black Gold, it's definitely showing some age and some marks from life in the Kootenays. The headlights, they're still in remarkable condition, though. They've honestly shocked me how well they've handled the 200,000 plus kilometers. The fog lights, they're definitely showing some telltale signs of life in Canada. Same with the hood and the grille, but BC doesn't mess around when it comes time to chucking rocks on the road when it gets icy, so it's just the territory. Now, speaking of flying rocks, the paint is definitely showing signs of winter conditions in the typical Frontier spots for this generation, by the rockers and the bottom quarter of the doors and the little factory flare at the back end there. This part is definitely taking a massive beating, especially on the passenger side. after I smoked a rock during a creek crossing. But the back bumper corners, they're taking a beating too, but I'm not concerned about the bumpers. I have plans to replace those soon. The typical rust-prone spots on this generation include the rockers, frame rails, and rear leaf spring mounts, and I'm happy to report it's just surface rust right now. I've definitely been diligent though, as much as I can, making sure to spray out the frame rails and cross members after taking this truck off-road, or even just during the winter to keep the salt and brine from destroying my truck. Now, in the bed of the truck, the liner sprayed in the factory has held up like a champ. I am super impressed with just how durable that liner is. There are some scuffs and stains, but overall no dings or dents. And I have definitely used this truck bed as a truck bed. Now, let's move on to the interior. Now, this truck is the Pro 4X model with the leather package and some gorgeous details, including the Pro 4X emblem on the headrests. That stitching is holding up fantastic, though my seat has a thread or two it's starting to come undone a bit. The leather overall has held up perfectly. I do clean and condition the seats on a regular basis, which definitely helps how they've held up. A few creases and a bum imprint, but that's just to be expected. The steering wheel is definitely showing the wear and tear with some thinning at my favorite hand positions. The buttons and switches, however, they all work fantastic and they're still in showroom ready condition. The only other interior issues I've encountered so far, the sunroof, it's starting to glitch out. I went to use it over the summer and it would just randomly raise and lower itself. So kind of marked it as off limits until I can get that addressed, but it's not high on my priority list. The other is a typical issue with this powertrain. The coolant reservoir just isn't big enough to handle cooling the engine and pumping heat into the cab at low RPMs, but that's just been an easy Band-Aid solution. I just top up the coolant a little bit more over the fill line and that's just solved the issue every time. Eventually, I wouldn't mind a high idle switch, but topping up the coolant is definitely the way I'm going for now. Now, after over 200,000 kilometers, this truck is still tight, and I've had several gearhead friends point that out too. The only real squeak is from somewhere in the entertainment unit, but it just shows up randomly. I'm thinking it's a simple fix, but it doesn't bother me that much yet. Speaking of infotainment, I do have the upgraded Rockford Fosgate 10 speaker sound system in here with an under-seat subwoofer, and it still performs beautifully. The only issue with the infotainment is the maps. They're severely outdated, but that one's on me. Now, here's the juicy bit. Powertrain and all the mechanical goodness. Under the hood, aside from chasing a leak from a gasket, this 4-liter VQ40 V6 has performed spectacularly. A small tick is developing, but for an engine that has as many clicks as this one, I'm not surprised. I'm not worried about that small tick either. I've had my mechanic look it over multiple times, and he's declared that engine fit as a fiddle each time. This engine, like I said before, it's been known to clock well into the 400,000 kilometer range, and this one is definitely keen on getting there. It's not consuming oil, very little power loss over the years. Maybe a horse or two has escaped the barn, but nothing major. I have kept up on the regular maintenance on this truck, and the engine still impresses me with power and torque, especially when I need it. The transmission has been amazing too. Nothing really big to talk about here. It's a 5-speed, so some of the hills around here I have caught it gear hunting, and she is starting to shift a touch rougher than when I drove her off the dealership lot, but I'm not surprised with the life this tranny has lived. There's been one winter here where I drove with the overdrive off all winter and in 4x4. The truck handled it just fine. Speaking of 4x4, the transfer case works awesome. It's always been a bit picky when it comes time to change from 4x4 low to high and back to two-wheel drive, but I've just learned to work with it. Now, I did redo the brakes a while back, and unfortunately, we got some faulty parts, so it does shake a bit when I brake, but it's not the truck, it's just the parts we put on it. And the suspension still rides like a small pickup should, though I have replaced the factory Bilsteins with different ones to accommodate the lift, which is generally the accepted max lift height before going through the front end and modifying it to Kingdom Come. I did have a leak under the truck from the rear end, but that's been resolved. The rear end, however, has caused me the most grief of any part on this truck. Let's break that down. So a while back, the driver's side axle shattered and nearly grenaded the rear diff's internals. Now that prompted a whole expedition where we initially thought it was the brakes that were buggered. Unfortunately, a roadside modification to limp it on 3 brakes to Edgewater ended up revealing the real problem. The brakes were the only reason the axle didn't come flying out from the rear end. Now that would have been catastrophic. One expensive bill over $3,000 later and the truck was all fixed up. A big dent in the pocketbook for a problem that even had seasoned Nissan mechanics scratching their heads. It's not common with these trucks. Fast forward to this summer and I decided not to take any chances this winter and found myself a great deal on a new passenger side rear axle from a Nissan dealer in Lethbridge. I picked up that part, drove it to Edgewater and had it installed with full circle. It didn't need it, but I thought it would be best to get it done and over with and save myself a few grand and not get stranded on the side of the highway again. The only other issue under the truck is the muffler. It's leaking and rusting out, which I do have a plan for that, and we'll fix that in an upcoming episode. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out. Now let's talk common problems with these trucks. I already touched on the heater issue, but what else is there? And have I had them come up with my truck? You'll hear lots of talk about radiator and transmission cross-contamination. This is an issue with the older models, and I haven't encountered it with mine. The exhaust manifold, sometimes they crack. I haven't had this happen to my truck, though, like I mentioned earlier, I do have a rust hole forming in my muffler as it leaks water, but there are plans in the works to address that issue. Premature leaf spring wear. I have noticed the rear end sagging a little bit more than when I bought it, but the leaf springs, they still function fine. I have been debating an add-a-leaf solution or just swapping the whole thing out when I dress up the bed of the truck to make it into my dream rig. Big decisions revolving around that, expensive ones too, so stick around for that. Rust on the frame rails, that's another one. This goes for any vehicle, and really, yeah, there's rust under there, but with the preventative maintenance I've done, aside from an underbody spray, so far it's just surface rust. Now here's a super common complaint. The headlights, they suck. Now if you're subscribed, you've likely seen the video where I address this. Now let's talk turkey, cashola, running costs. Something important to factor in before we dive into the dollars and cents is I live in British Columbia and we do have a very high cost of living here. Fuel economy, it's the silent elephant in the room. I'll put it to you this way. You don't buy a Nissan for the fuel economy. You gotta pay to play. It's the miles per gallon mentality. I'm lucky to get a range of 550 to 600 kilometers with this truck, and that takes a lot of hypermiling and highway driving. My normal range is about 400 kilometers, give or take. This hasn't really changed too much from when the truck was new, though I have noticed I rarely see the big gains like I did when it was new. For reference, I do run regular grade 87 octane gasoline in this truck, and I've never run anything different. Mostly because the fuel prices here in BC are high. Oil changes. Not much to talk about. Whatever's good from Lordco will suffice. If there's something refined in Canada, that obviously goes into this truck. I do run full synthetic oil in black gold, and it's never failed to start in the brutal winters we have around here, even when I do forget to plug in the block heater. Whoops. As far as repairs, aside from normal maintenance, which varies on who I go to for the work or just do the work myself, usually costs either a few beer or under $500. Insurance is also cheap on this thing, which is saying a lot because insurance in BC isn't known for being cheap. Now, here's a question that may have prompted you to watch this very video. Should you buy a high K Frontier? Well, as always, do your homework on the vehicle that you're thinking of buying. Check Carfax and ask the seller if they have service records and receipts to pour over. Like I've mentioned, the powertrain in this D40 is known to have a long life if they're taken care of. And even if it's not in the best maintained example, I wouldn't be afraid of a high K Frontier. It's a reliability focused, simple, rugged truck that likes to work and likes to play. If you're looking for a truck with fantastic fuel economy and fancy gadgetry, sorry, this isn't the truck for you. There's no lane keep assist, no self-driving, no advanced cruise control, just your plain Jane cruise control, and maybe some reverse radar sensors and a camera with lines that don't move as you steer. You drive this truck just like how it used to be. So would I buy this truck again? Absolutely I would, in a heartbeat. This has been my best 21st century automotive purchase I've ever made. Do I think it'll make it to 300,000 kilometers? Without a doubt, absolutely it will. And it'll keep on going past there too. I am dipping my toes into the market for a second vehicle to daily drive and take on road trips that will be a little bit easier on the wallet at the pumps than this thing, and to keep the miles off the Frontier too. And if the truck died tomorrow, would I consider another one like it? You bet I would. I don't think there's another vehicle out there that could handle being shoved through quad trails by accident or outshining built Toyotas on the trails. So that's it. Those are my thoughts and honest feedback without any bias or push from a dealer or manufacturer. Those are my completely raw thoughts and experiences with my Frontier. Some of you might say, well, heck, that was a pretty dull episode, but it just speaks to how reliable this truck has been for me. I absolutely treasure my Frontier, and I'm stoked to finally begin building it into my dream off-road overlanding rig. But as I mentioned, I am entering the market for a used vehicle to daily and road trip with that's more fuel efficient than this truck. My criteria that I've set for this one definitely prefer a manual. Wouldn't mind a wagon or a hatchback. I want four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. It's gotta be fuel efficient. Does that ring any bells or give you any ideas on what I should buy? Let me know in the comments below, and if I do end up buying what you suggest, I'll line up a great prize for you as a thank you. But that's all for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and hey, maybe you got something out of it. Make sure you give the video a like, hit that subscribe button, and make sure you ring that bell with notifications set to all. That'll ensure you never miss an episode. Your guys' support means the absolute world to me, so thanks so much for tuning in. I'm that car guy, Tim, and as always, have fun, get her done.